Not all cameras are created equally. I'm a big believer in the saying, the best camera is the one you have with you. Sometimes we cannot always have the best equipment with us or afford the most up-to-date technology, but that's okay. We are going to go through several types of image capturing devices that should get you on track to taking better portraits. So the 4 different cameras that we're going to be talking about over this class, and what I want to explain to you about difference-wise, are smartphones, point and shoots, mirrorless cameras, and DSLRs. Now there's pros and cons to all of them. The big thing is that the technology is very different. In smartphones, it's always a phone that you're going to have with you, which is great. So you normally have a camera with you no matter where you go. The downside to these is that not always does it have the best range of color, the most dynamic depth in pixels, because sometimes you want a camera that's going to take a bigger megapixel to blow up bigger. It also doesn't always have that cool depth of field that an interchangeable camera would have. Point and shoots are similar to smartphones in that they're small, you can travel with them, and you have them and can take them almost anywhere. The downside to them is they're not interchangeable lenses, so you won't get that depth of field. Another plus to them is that you can record to SD cards, you can take tons of photos, unlike a smartphone that's relegated to just what's on your phone. A point and shoot will have that capacity for more and more photos, and you can interchange SD cards. Mirrorless cameras, like the one I have here, is my personal favorite. And for all intents and purposes, they're very similar to DSLRs. You can change the lens. They have bigger megapixels like the DSLRs, but they're smaller, they're cheaper, and they weigh less. Most of them are not as fast as a professional DSLR, but that's okay depending on what you're doing. I like mirrorless cameras because I can travel with them. You can invest in them more because it's cheaper. I do find that sometimes I get a little weighed down when they're not as fast, the EVF isn't as good, and the lenses aren't as a high quality that I'm used to with professional cameras. But for the most part, mirrorless cameras work great for me, and they're a good happy medium because you can still travel with them. They're light like a smartphone or a point and shoot, but you can get the nice glass, which is really big when you're taking portraits. DSLRs are the highest level of professional cameras. They have a large body, so they're a lot heavier and bigger. They tend to be a little bit more expensive, although you can get a smaller low-level DSLR. They'll have a big megapixel count, which means you can print large photos and you can zoom in and crop more. But they do tend to be a little bit more expensive. They're bulky to carry around, and they require a lot more equipment to get what you're trying to do. So really, it comes down to what are you shooting, what your style of shooting is, what level you're at. DSLRs need a little bit more training. You need to know what you're doing a little bit more on them, and that goes down the scale. Mirrorless is a little bit less, point and shoot's a little bit less, and smartphones, clearly you can just take it out and take a picture. So for this class, I'm gonna be focusing on smartphones and mirrorless cameras. Smartphones are similar enough to point and shoots so that we can compare them. Mirrorless cameras are similar enough to interchangeable DSLRs, so we can compare them. I'm going to be doing some live demos later, and I'm going to be doing one with a mirrorless and one with a smartphone in the same situation so you can see the exact difference and how you can manipulate them to get the shot you want. The big and most important thing is that this class is mostly about taking better portraits. I don't want to focus on exact models of technology because things are always changing, and everything is very specific to your style and how you shoot yourself. You may not be a professional photographer, you may just have a really nice smartphone and you want to take better portraits, or you may be at the high level of a professional photographer and you want to focus on those things and you're worried about the model. The big thing is that photography is something that you can do yourself, and it's something that we can teach techniques, and then the tools come later and you apply those to those techniques. For this class, we want to be able to teach you the specific techniques to take better portraits. The one piece of advice I would give you is not to focus necessarily on different future expensive models, but really to focus on what you have and what's available to you and what you can afford. We want you to take better pictures, and we want you to get out there and actually shoot